Good afternoon, good evening, everyone who's here. Sorry for being late. And sorry for sharing a bunch of garbage on the screen. My screen's very cluttery right now. Let me clean up my desktop here while I'm waiting to start. And again, if anybody wants to join me to talk, I can provide the link to join, and we can have a conversation that involves more than hearing only my voice. So just let me know. It's in the Discord already. It's the same one from last week. It'll always be the same. Anybody who wants to join can pop in without even asking. You can just join me. You can startle me, and can have a jump scare. So BB is here, and BB is saying that our beloved Manitoba hockey team lost last night. And forgive me for not knowing what's the mascot or the team name of Manitoba. I should know these things if I plan on becoming a cultural import. So, BB, you're gonna have to let me know. No sound? No sound? I show that I have sound. Sound check. So David says I have no sound. Mediocrity Network says hello and greetings, Mediocrity. It's MN. I'm going to call you MN. It's good to see you, MN. Good to see you again. And you too, David. And BB, even though still reeling from the hockey loss. I'm going to check and see if the sound is on my end or if there's something else going on. This is always apparently a thing. So let's see if you can hear me. Anybody else besides David, if I can't be heard, let me know. Because I'm showing just a little low. Okay, well let me, I can turn myself up. I bet I know what the problem is here. 1 second. For some reason, the settings on my microphone, Windows just loves to change them. There I go. It was 25% low. I should be a little louder. Let me see if I was also low on my mixer, so I can turn it up a little bit more. Let's see here. All right. Now I'm peeking out. That was not good. How about this? All right. Hopefully, David, I just turned it up, and hopefully everybody can hear me now. As far as getting started goes, I didn't post this anywhere but Twitter. Somebody posted it to the RM Brown group. They posted this video. Let's see if I can find it here. I'll share it. And I really liked whoever found this video and posted it and clipped it up. Not sure it was the original person from the RM Brown subreddit, but whoever found it, it's just like a really good clip. So,
again, we're here.
Oops. Here, let me share it here. All right, so I found this. Somebody else found it. This is not the right one because that has a face swap in it. Let's see here.
Again, we're here.
All right, here it is. So the clip is called "When You Finally Run Into Tim Pool."
Very quick, very effective. Again, we're here.
It's a good enough Tim Pool that it really hits.
Effective.
So, but when you look at it, Tim would never wear a shirt, this baggy shirt and these white pants. So, but the beanie and the facial hairs are really close. So, but the face, not a great Tim Pool face. So, I felt like it needed just a little bit of tweaking, and so I made it into this.
Again, we're here.
And it's just a little fun, quick video.
Very quick, very effective. Again, we're here.
There's something that feels good about it. Just seeing Tim get dislodged from his thing. And I posted this to Twitter under, what did I call it? I said, let's see here. I posted it to Twitter. Pro tip when visiting the Tim Pool compound. So that's that. I have been working on trying to, finish some of these open series that I have. This was going in a different direction in Elon's current tragedy. I was thinking about how I don't know. I was talking about this on the Discord that the IVF clinic bombing is fascinating because it's somebody acting on very obscure. He had a manifesto that said he was a pro-mortalist, which I'd never even heard of before. I heard of antinatalism, which is the view that it's kind of immoral to bring people into the world without their consent. I mean, that's part of it. There's a larger theory there, but I'd never heard of pro-mortalism, I guess, which is the idea that it's complicated. Didn't really necessarily want to talk about that right away, but what I did want to do while we're waiting before I share what little I do have, I wanted to share a couple things that I have here. Let's see if I can turn I want to take this stuff off my desktop here. I saw something referring to his belief as F-ism. Huh. I'd never heard of that. I'd never heard of pro-mortalism either, but I guess it's the view that humanity should die off, which, that's a pretty extreme view for those of us who are already here and accustomed to things and have made relationships with people and have obligations and whatnot. But before I dive into that dark topic, I wanted to share this thing. I've been cleaning up my room. I have here my Sesame Street. Oh, it's getting a little bit of green screen. Fisher-Price record player. I wanted to open up on a lighter note then, since I was going to talk about the IVF bombing and pro-mortalism. I thought that I should. Let's see. All right, so here's what it looks like on the inside. What's really cool is it's got the little bird stylus. Fisher. This is not my original one. I found this later in life, but I had a similar Fisher-Price record player as a kid. But I really like the little bird stylus. So here it is. And what I really was excited to share was the collection of records that I had amassed. I'm a crate digger. So while we're waiting here, I'm so going to easily get distracted by talking about antinatalism and pro-mortalism, because I feel like that's a heady conversation, and it's the kind of stuff that I do like to talk about, but I'm not sure everybody enjoys it. So I'm trying to lighten the mood before I do. Or maybe I should just hang on to these records, and as we have the conversation, I'll bring up a record to kind of change the tone of the conversation and to keep it lighter. So let's see. I need to move my chat here so I can read it. It's behind my camera, so 1 second. David says, pro-mortalism, the philosophy that it's best for any mortal being to die as soon as possible. Dustin says, the one question I have for any antinatalist or pro-mortalist is simply, why do you eat? That's a pretty nice summary of pro-mortalism, that it's best for any mortal living to die as soon as possible. Because partly there is the clear indication that the longer at least human beings live, the more we make society worse for other people. The longer some of us drag on, the harder it is for the younger generation to be able to find housing, to find, jobs and whatnot. So there is, in my mind, not kind of a pragmatic argument for the idea that we should all live shorter lives. Maybe I'm not saying that we should kill ourselves, but the idea that we would be able to exit this world gracefully and, perhaps leave a house that somebody younger could move into is appealing. There's a person who wrote a book called, let me see here. I'm going to put it up here. Now I'm just rambling. I have nothing prepared here, but I did figure I was going to end up talking about this. The Dream Hoarders. right here. So the Dream Hoarders, how the American upper middle class is leaving everyone else in the dust. Why that is a problem and what to do about it. So basically it's about this group of people who had opportunities that a lot of people don't. And the longer these people hold on to those opportunities, the longer and the more people they are, the harder it is for everyone else. So in my view, I don't consider myself a pro-motorist, but I do see a compelling case for everyone not clinging on to everything they have as much and as long as they tend to, if that makes sense. And I was thinking, David, I was going to share that. Let's watch the trailer for Logan's Run. I saw this movie a lot as a kid because it was always on TV. But it basically a science fiction story about how, let's watch the trailer. The trailer's funny.
Welcome to the 23rd century. The perfect world of total pleasure. Imagine a world in which you need never be alone. You touch a switch, turn a dial, and the perfect lover steps into your arms. Every pleasure is yours to experience.
Runner! There's just one catch.
When the tiny crystal in the palm of your hand flashes its final message, your time is up. Michael York is Logan.
Run, Logan!
Policeman in a perfect world.
No!
Trained to track down runners.
Run, Logan!
Until he is forced to run himself.
He's a runner.
Logan!
I'm your friend, I understand. We all go crazy once in a while. But she's a runner, and it's over.
Overwhelming, am I not?
Bucks, an incredible being. More than human, more than machine.
All right, that's enough for the trailer. I think that's the same narrator from the Buck Rogers NBC show. I can't remember. He did a lot of narration. He's funny. These old trailers are pretty hilarious. But anyways, let's see. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pause it on the robot. Where's the robot? Because he was really cheesy. The British make really funny movies. What's that? The other movie that gives me similar vibes is what's the movie with Sean Connery? It's based Zardoz has like a similar cheesy science fiction film, and it has I don't know if Zardoz was British. It certainly feels British, but I'm really rambling. So let's go back here. Last week, your friend expressed the hurry up boomers. Yeah, it's like, as somebody like my dad really clung onto his life as long as possible. And I experienced it firsthand. A person who is not able to interact with society in any meaningful way, but insists that they need to continue on. And I mean, it's easy to get into very dark places here, but I felt like my dad became, he had Parkinson's and he was not thinking clearly. And had he thought things through and considered the best interest of his family, he might have decided to not drag things on as long as possible, to actually consider that by moving on and you're letting the other people in your life move forward. And I think on a personal level, it's very easy to talk about that. You can talk about your family, but it's harder when you extrapolate that to general society and you start talking about other people's dads needing to do that. So it becomes tricky to have these conversations. Let's see. Dustin says the problem is mostly the boomers, not an overall species-wide thing where mortal evolutionary life should die fast, although it does result in fitter species. Yeah, the problem with human beings is we are unique in our social structure and the way that we organize our society. No other creatures engage in social behavior in quite the same way that we do. We have elements of, a fierce individualism, but we are also designed to be part of a collective. We are designed to be operated in terms of some degree of group thought and whatnot. So it can be kind of complicated. I'm gonna pull up a record to distract myself here. So the first record I have that I would play on my Big Bird record player. My switching is not working today. I'm gonna have to use my mouse. Sesame Street Gold. The Best of Sesame Street. So, and again, all these are just records I found when I was looking for music to sample for my own music stuff. I never sampled Sesame Street because the music is very well known, and even though I think these are actually really good records, the music on Sesame Street is pretty good. So there's our first record for the day to lighten it up. Sesame Street Gold does not actually include a gold record, unfortunately. It's not colored vinyl, but it's a gatefold record with two inside. So there we go. Back to the topic of or pro-modalism. I'm torn as a person who studies philosophy and science and whatnot. It's kind of hard not to come to kind of a moral anti-realist position, because how do you insert moral judgments into a system of that just consists of chemicals and matter interacting with each other, where you actually have to eventually make up something to have morality. And that's human beings. We basically have to fabricate a moral system, because we have to realize that we are just, stardust. We are just chemicals. But that's not any way to live. If everybody had a pro-mortalist viewpoint, it would be a very stark and hard way to live our lives. So my view is one that starts from a position of kind of moral anti-realism, that there is no real objective morality. It doesn't come from any sort of supernatural God, or my cat is trying to break through the door. The universe is essentially nihilistic at its core, but as human beings and social creatures, we are born into these circumstances, and as we are aware of this, it's incumbent upon us to come up with a moral system, because that's part of our evolutionary design. Is we have to create a moral system in order for us to function socially. And largely, historically, morality has just been a way to be punitive to people in our tribes and in other cultures and whatnot. Because if you go back to science, there's no reason to believe that we have free will. And if we don't have free will, how can you assert, moral judgments? There's no such thing as morality. And of course you get into topics of, hard determinism versus soft determinism and whatnot. And I find those conversations kind of uninteresting and pedantic. But Justin says, I'm sorry, let's see, I'm behind on the comments here. If you play that, you might be debilitated by nostalgia. Yes, that's me. And I find nostalgia both problematic but also comforting. Like, I think back to Sesame Street. I don't know if I watched a lot of Sesame Street as a kid, but I did watch some. It's very comforting to know that there's, they created this show that was partly designed to help raise up, in the spirit of kind of a liberal arts education, it was designed to help raise up these kids who didn't have the same opportunities as people born into the ruling class or whatever. So, you have a whole entire neighborhood that these kids who had rather bleak lives were supposed to be connected to. And so you have the monsters that are supposed to, somehow that's supposed to be comforting to you as a kid, to be the kid surrounded by these monsters. And Sesame Street, they kind of changed their tone over time. They had some elements, like apparently kids were scared of some of these monsters. Kids also didn't like the fact that nobody could see Snuffleupagus, so they modified the story over time and the neighborhood. Let's see. We have hidden estrus and postmenopausal life. Yes, I think that bonobos, bonobos do display estrus. Maybe we're unique. I think we are the only species who has hidden estrus, and that's a complicated subject because a lot of people can be very sensitive about these topics of the differences between males and females. As far as biologically, there has been a historical push on the behalf of feminists to argue that women are just as capable. And, largely that is true, but we do have these fundamental biological differences that, should be considered. But they should never be used to rationalize stations in life, which is what the right tends to do. The right will take, something and they'll say, this is natural. And then they'll argue that therefore it's good. So they make an argument of kind of natural law, that if this is natural, then, it's good. If it's not natural, it's not. So, Dustin says that there are a couple of dolphins, elephants. Yeah. So apparently in evolutionary psychology, the theory is that hidden estrus gives the female a better choice of mates, which is again complicated. We have a very complicated sexual reproductive strategy, which I think tends to cause some strife once you try to factor in morality into these things. So, Liam in DC. It's good to see you, Liam. Apparently, I caught that you missed hanging out last week because you decided to hang out with your significant other. So it's good to see you this time, and it's good to see you quote Stardust. Our planet rotates around a star, and eventually the Earth will become a mineral puddle on the surface of the sun. So it turns out the sun worship is right all along. Yes, and again, I always love the Carl Sagan quote that we are made of stardust. We are the universe's way of knowing itself, which is. Carl Sagan was an atheist, but his view, like somebody asked the other day, can an atheist be spiritual? And I think they can. Of course, it depends on how you define spiritual. Pedantic atheists will say spiritual means that you believe in spirits and souls and whatnot, but I don't believe it does. Being spiritual just means you feel connected to other entities in your life. You can feel connected to nature. So I think atheists can be spiritual. And let's see. We got a lot of different. This conversation is very disjointed, and it's all my fault because I suffer from ADHD, and I have a hard time maintaining a train of thought. Sesame Street book and record. So here it is with the original cast. Mr. Hooper's there. People may remember when, I guess there was some controversy about, killing a character off in a kid's story. But I think it's probably better that kids be connected to reality rather than, think that these things are never going to happen. And part of the problem with America is that we shield ourselves from the horrors of life a little too much, I think. Dustin says, hidden estrus and sexual pleasure is the only reason we survived it all. Yeah, the bonobos, which I don't believe have hidden estrus, but do engage in recreational sex, our closest animal relatives. Sex is used as a diffusion method. So to prevent violence, they will just have sex, and that kind of diffuses situations. And allegedly, we are very similar to bonobos in our use of sex in this way of recreational sex and whatnot. I think there's lots of people who have written on this, but a very basic book about this. If for anyone who isn't familiar with human reproductive strategy, and a scientist, fortunately, who has not yet been entangled with some of the controversies that others, at least as far as I know, probably these things change all the time. Jared Diamond has a simple book called "Why Sex is Fun," and Jared Diamond's his books are incredible, like Guns, Germs, and Steel, and the Third Chimpanzee. Why Sex is Fun. It's just a very simple book, and it explains the evolution of human sexuality, as it says here on the cover. So I'd recommend that. Also, the book, The Third Chimpanzee, is a series of Jared Diamond's work for anybody who is curious. It's an old book, and I'm an old person, so I recommend old books because I don't keep up with the times. But Jared Diamond, let's see here, Third Chimpanzee. He has it's just basically a collection of essays. Where is this? I typed it wrong. Third Champagne, Third Chimp. Okay. One of my favorite essays in this book was, he has an essay about how we beam messages out to space to draw, to let people know we're here. And he points out that what did we do to people in the New World when we discovered that they were there? We basically slaughtered them and exploited them and did all these horrible things. So this essay questions why we would draw an intergalactic species to us. And the argument always is, well, if they could travel, I guess this comes from people who, optimists who like watch Star Trek and whatnot and think that a really intergalactic species would be kind and they could discover us and they would come to our planet and be kind to us rather than eat us, which is questionable. Dustin says, very chatty Dustin today. Hidden estrus doesn't give choice, but plus reproduction is rare and complex. Hidden estrus allows you're saying it doesn't give a choice. Hidden estrus does, because the female is not displaying when she is able to be impregnated or have her eggs fertilized, or whatever the appropriate way of saying it is. It allows them to be more choosy in their mates, is my understanding. And so that's why men today feel there's this problem in the manosphere that men feel that women have all these choices, but men don't. And the reality is that men are not as selective as women in their partners. Our reproductive strategies are different completely, and that's a whole nother topic that's not related to Sesame Street. And the next record, Let Your Feelings Show. There's Bert and Ernie, and they've got really cool hand puppets there. Woke Mike, it's good to see you here. I'm just talking about very heavy philosophical concepts while sharing my Sesame Street records. To try to, this was not intentional, but I'm going to do it anyways. Liam says, more of an ego thing. Those signals will most likely not reach any aliens in them. So it's just to let them know who we were at this point in time. Sure, that the Voyager satellite, isn't that the one where they put the record? Let's look that up. I have this golden record. Voyager. Well, I'm going to tie this into me sharing my record collection. Record. Let's see. Voyager golden record. Okay, here it is. The Voyager golden record are two identical phonograph records, one of each, which were included aboard the Voyager spacecraft, contains sounds and data to reconstruct raster scan images selected to portray the diversity of life and culture on Earth and are intended for any intelligent extraterrestrial life form who may find them. The records are a time capsule, so here they are. So there's that, and the other side of it, the sounds of Earth, United States of America. All right, so no, Dustin, it's fine. I like the conversation, but I do, I just wonder, like, not everybody. We can have these conversations probably be more of interest to on a one-on-one basis than it would maybe broader speaking. Whereas like pro-mortalism. I shared this thing, the kid that blew up the IVF clinic, and the narrative in the media. Let's just look and see. I'm in the wrong thing here. I need to switch my profile. Sorry, people can dox me. Let's look up what happened at this IVF clinic. I just bookmark anything on these things. So the IVF clinic was blown up, and people are going to say that it was a religious fanatic, but clearly blowing up an IVF clinic. At first, you always think that it's normally these attacks have been on reproductive clinics like abortion places where you can get abortions, and you always think it's going to be a pro-life person killing other people to illustrate, the value of life. But this kid had a manifesto in which he argued that he's pro-mortalist and that he was doing this because it was a crime to bring more people into the world. And it's very fascinating that, because Claire, I think there is some elements of, what he says there is some, I don't want to say truth to it, because there's not, it's not like this is veracity here, but his argument that we bring people into the world without their consent, and IVF is the worst example of that, because you're literally forcing the sperm onto the egg. There's something somewhat compelling about that. So in his mind, by blowing up this clinic, he's preventing hundreds, if not thousands, of children from being brought into the world against their consent. And while doing that, he's also devastating the lives of all these people who really, really desperately want to have children. So he's committing this kind of moral atrocity in the name of thinking that he is doing I guess he was the only casualty in this explosion. So he basically sacrificed his life for the belief that he was saving these embryos from the horrors of existence. And on some levels, there's something noble about sacrificing your life in that way. And this is like an uncomfortable conversation to have, because I think that blowing yourself, the property damage, is bad, but he's basically kind of screwed these people's lives who were possibly, sometimes who knows what was going on there and how many people were close to conceiving, and this might have made their lives worth living by having a kid. Sometimes there's that argument that people feel a sense of absence if you're not a parent, which I don't agree with. I think that largely that can be like a social pressure, your parents or whatnot. So, Woke Mike, I appreciate you talking about Digby, bringing Digby up, because he used to play a much bigger role in what I do, and I should get back to it. I thought, but the problem is that I always have to work on. I'm always unprepared for these streams. I have to prepare material and try to do, riff with the robot and whatnot. So you're right. I need to get back to Digby and talk less about pro-mortalism and whatnot, even though that's like the kind of things that I really think about. And Digby often is just a distraction from talking about some of these more serious issues. Like, one thing that I think about with this explosion is that partly, and this brings us back to antinatalism and the position of moral anti-realism, the idea that morality is objectively false, that there is no morality. And there's a whole school of Eastern thought, like Taoists. The Taoists believe that they don't necessarily believe in moral judgments, and that we should be always saying that this is right and that's wrong, and having conflict. That there's a position, moral anti-realism, and in some forms of Taoism, that taking these extreme positions creates more problems than it solves. So their focus is on your individual being of good character and being at harmony with your environment. Which there's something very appealing in that, because when you think about it, this kid blew up this building because he took a very strong moral stance, even though he's supposed to be coming from a position of moral anti-realism, if you're a pro-moralism, I would think. And just in general, the conflict that we have in society right now with, MAGA and whatnot, they're very extreme moral positions. And when we get engaged in that sort of, culture war, it's like not productive at all, because we're never going to convince the other side of our own, morality. So let's see here. Yeah, Dustin, that's my position, is that I don't know, did he injure anybody? I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, is it's sad, because my thinking is a lot of times I don't like to assess moral judgments to individuals, because you don't really know their circumstances. And as somebody who doesn't believe that people really have control of their facilities, that we are just subject to environmental pressures and stimuli, that we're not really moral creatures, but we believe we are. I don't want to judge this kid. My thinking is that if this kid had a better outlook for the future, that if you are somebody who gets involved in pro-mortalism, if you're doing readings into pro-mortalism, you probably have issues with, and this is tricky. I don't want to say you have mental illness, but they're probably, because I suffer from these. Sometimes I have very bleak thoughts about humanity and whatnot, but they tend to be in more depressive states. So I would like to say that if you're existing in a more harmonious state, if you perceive yourself as having options for the future, you're not likely to go and blow up a bunch of embryos in a clinic. And I blame, sound like a broken record here, but I blame capitalism and the fact that we do not provide any sort of positive outlook for the future for the younger generations. So it's very easy for them to get caught up in these dark philosophies. Very easy for you to feel like you have no future. I think about this guy doing this to these embryos is not, I mean, it's a stretch. And what, like, the Columbine shooters, one of the biggest and most notable school shootings, it's very, I see these things as tethered together. These are what happen when you have kids and you have people who are learning about themselves, and the 25 years old is a kid in my book, and I don't mean that disparaging, because I think that we're all kind of children, even to the point we die. 25 is very young, and you can still be impressionable, and it's easy to get caught up in thinking that you know better than anybody else. So I view what he did as better. It's bad that he did what he did. I mean, he is making a point. He is raising awareness of pro-mortalism, but it's the same thing with Dylan and Harris. They shot up a school because they felt just the bleakness of existence. They felt what this kid is feeling, but rather than take it out on themselves and the prospect of saving these other kids from suffering, they actually were very active in doing something far worse. But I think that if we had a society in which people felt that there were opportunities, that they had a future, we'd see less school shootings. We'd see less people blowing themselves up to try to save these embryos from the horrors of existence. I'm really rambling, but yeah. All of the eggs survived the attack. Woke Mike is saying, that's fascinating. I did not know that. So, I mean, yeah, I think he did. I think he really did believe that he was doing a morally good act by preventing these embryos and eggs or sperm or whatever. I think he was convinced. But largely he's extrapolating from his own experiences, because there are people, and I think he says that in his manifesto. I think he says that like 1 in 1,000 people, I don't know if it were have a good life. I haven't read his manifesto and probably won't, but his argument was that very few of us get to have wonderful lives, which to me is, there's an element of truth there, that most of us are born into pretty, mediocre or less than optimum circumstances. That's especially true if you think globally, that the bulk of humanity is born under not great circumstances. Very few of us get to enjoy life as we are told that it should be. Dustin is pushing back against the notion that the Columbine kids were bullies. Well, apparently the one kid was kind of a mean shit. But again, I'm going to make the case that human beings aren't, nasty or mean just by virtue of being born that way. I mean, there can be a case made that there are certain genetic predispositions that we're born with, but I'll make the case that he was bad. He was a bad person because his parents treated him badly, and the cycle of violence and cruelty that parents and children exist is something that has been going on for a long time. The other kid, Klebold and Harris, I think it is. Klebold was the kid who was shitty. Harris just was somebody who went along with the other kid. Apparently he was not a bad kid, and his mom has a TED Talk about it. I found the TED Talk. Some people are pushing back against the TED Talk, but I found it compelling. It's very easy for kids to get caught up in, what other kids are doing, because we are not individual thinkers. We are designed to be programmed through group thought. So it's very easy for us to get caught up. I just dropped something on the ground. Very easy for us to get caught up in a cult leader, and sometimes the cult can be a cult of just two people. One person just buying into the other person's bullshit. So if the one kid had a bad life and, his parents were shitty, it's very easy for the other kid, if he's impressionable, just to get caught up and become similar to that. So anyways, Columbine was a new school, tons of cameras and surveillance tech. I blame the school's oppression mostly. Yeah, I mean, it could be there. These things are always very complicated. And that's why I'd like to talk about the next record, Sesame Street Fever. And there's Grover. Very fascinating that this movie would be turned into a kid's record. So there they are, Sesame Street Fever. So yeah, I mean, like on one hand, my whole way of dealing with these things, when I see about these things, I tend to just deal with the negative things in life with humor, rather than trying to reason it out, or rather than trying to feel like I can take action, because it feels really hard where I'm at to be able to just go out there and take action, because for one, there's extremely crazy people here, and if you make a misstep, it feels like they'll shoot you. So Woke Mike is asking, did he have a tattoo? I'm not sure I understand what having a tattoo has to do with it. I have done no looking into this story. I have done no looking into it. But yes, more importantly, Liam is asking, is Grover the best character for Travolta? I don't know. But he looks good. Bert, you would think, Bert and Ernie, of course, famous roommates together. Either one of them could have made the John Travolta character. Cookie Monster, definitely no. Cookie Monster would not have. Dustin, I'm glad you brought up The Monster in the Book. I have a copy of The Monster at the end of the book. That is a classic work of literature. Probably one of my favorite books as a kid was The Monster at the end of this book. I also loved Frog and Toad. So, Woke Mike, you got a Pink Floyd album today. Did you get like new vinyl or old vinyl? Because I guess vinyl's coming back. Like, I bought all these records when I used to crate dig right after when CDs came out. You could get records for, like, if you went to the right place, you could find them like for $10 for $1. So I've got The Stars come out on Sesame Street. This one features a bunch of stars: Johnny Cash and Ray Charles, Judy Collins, Lena Horne, Madeline Kahn, the Pointer Sisters, and Helen Reddy. So The Stars come out. The first meta book. Yeah, it's a very the book is self-referencing, and I just thinking about that book, it's so good. I love it. I love how scared he is, and as a kid, it was a very exciting read. So, did the kid who blew up the clinic have an MS-13 tattoo? Yeah, I don't know. Probably. I'm sure that he had some tattoo that they can be identified as MS-13. Here is Dinah. I guess I don't realize it because I never really noted celebrities on Sesame Street, but I guess that's a huge thing is these people, and when they're in their heyday, they come on to promote the show or promote themselves or whatever. Famously, Republicans and the right work to defund public broadcasting because they've always wanted to teach their own values rather than trust that Sesame Street will teach us to be neighborly and respect the people in our neighborhood. They want us to be able to homeschool and do other crazy things like this story here. Well, let's see. The Oklahoma School Board story. This was in The Guardian. I spelled Oklahoma wrong. Right here. This story here. Oklahoma high schools to teach 2020 election conspiracy theories as fact. State Superintendent Ryan Walters tapped Chief of Heritage Foundation, key player behind 2025 for curriculum. So they're going to teach kids that there were election discrepancies. So they basically, and it can be done. I mean, the reality is that their goal here is to rewrite history so Trump does not come out as a person who lost the election. They want to make it so that Trump really possibly won the election and that the riot were actually patriots. So that's their goal here, is rewriting history. And it's absolutely crazy that this is happening. I mean, it's just nuts. Dustin says, education is fundamentally opposed to right-wing thought. AI companies are discovering this on a very interesting scale. Well, right-wing thought, I guess it's not really education when it's more propaganda. They are into propaganda and just programming kids to think in certain ways. Whereas, I mean, liberal arts education is also programming kids in certain ways, but it's not as insular, and it's designed to actually make you more broad-minded and accepting of other people. So, how did the Daily Wire's kid programming do? I think, what was their Bent Key? I'm not sure. I know that they made a Bluey takeoff, and I don't know. The thing is that you never get to know. My cat is going to hit the camera. Hey, don't. Oh no, cat's going to do something. They keep all these things internal, so you never know the success of their things. We don't really know how well Lady Ballers performed, and we won't really know. All right. Hey, what are you doing? The cat is, he's going to be problematic here. So, Dustin says, attempting to make models right-leaning impairs their other capabilities due to hyperdimensional clustering. Yeah, I haven't, done much investigation as far as these things, but you can kind of probably see some of the issues that they're facing with trying to get Grok under control. Apparently, Grok went on a tear this week and started talking about white genocide because they just inserted it into they inserted ouch, he just bit me. And the story about, let's see here, let's look this up. What was it? Grok white genocide. And it's incredible that we're to the point where this is just talked about casually. The concept of white genocide it's just such a insane viewpoint. A rogue employee was behind unprompted white genocide mentions. Yeah. So apparently people were just asking about things like HBO Go, and Grok would start talking about white genocide. So, all right. You guys are the cat. I deserve that bite? I don't think so. Now he's running away. He's trying to open the door and go back out. He's under. Can you see him in the corner here? There he goes. To change the topic again, this is an earlier Sesame Street one, so you can see the art. They kind of hadn't found their footing, but it does include Rubber Ducky, which is an awesome song. Rubber Ducky, you're the one who makes bath time lots of fun. You know, and he's just classic Sesame Street. You can see that this record here is different because this is one of the other Wonderland Records. They made a lot of children's records, and they just, I guess, licensed Sesame Street before it really became a thing. I don't know. Maybe this isn't as old as I thought. Maybe they just didn't have the rights to the photos. Who knows? I've got too many Sesame Street records here. Again, for those of you who showed up late, I'm sure I'm talking about Sesame Street records and moral anti-realism. Here was my record player with Big Bird and Little Bird stylus. So, trying to run through here real quick. Bert and Ernie Sing Along, where they a little piano tune. So, all right. Dustin says, researchers trained a model to produce harmful code, which turned its chat capability into a rabid Nazi. Yeah, it's incredibly complicated because, like, if whatever your baseline is for the data that's considered to be valid, I mean, all of these things are subject to interpretation. So depending on what starting point you have, an AI can run with whatever thing you put into it. And the problem is these days we no longer agree on facts. So how can you have an AI come to conclusions about reality when it's entirely dependent on our subjective interpretations thereof? So Sesame Street concert on stage live. So this looks exciting. It looks like something like Sesame Street on Ice or whatever, musical, which probably wouldn't fly these days. Right wing probably has some opinions about musical theater and whatnot. So this is another reason why Sesame Street was defunded by the far right. I'm curious up there in Canada for the people in Manitoba and whatnot, if they have a Sesame Street type show, or if Sesame Street is a thing there. Mediocrity Network says the Chipchilla. Yes, it was the Chipchilla was the Bluey knockoff. And is it still being done? I don't know. Like a lot of these things that the Daily Wire are whoa, 2.1. It's only 118 ratings. Chipchilla is an animated television series for children created by Eric Branscombe and Ethan Nicole that premiered on Bentkey, a Daily Wire. The second season was released. So is it negatively received by journalists, seeing it as inferior right-wing animation to Bluey? A lot of the future of the Daily Wire is in question now that Jeremy is out. The God King is out. Because I guess these two ding-dongs, they got this billionaire fracking money, and their whole purpose was to try to spread the propaganda of billionaires. And then they started using the money to try to make, they have some kind of, let's look it up, YouTube. What was there? They had a fantasy show. Give me 7 minutes a day in the chair and I'll... Oh, there's that guy's voice. Daily Wire, what was it? Fantasy show? What was this? It was based on the Pendragon Cycle. Here it is. The Pendragon Cycle.
I remember hearing stories when I was a child. Is it true what they say?
The world is ever changing.
The old ways must be left behind. The beginning of a new era is upon us.
So here it is. Basically just them trying to do something like Game of Thrones or whatever. And the thing is that this is what they always wanted to do. Jeremy is friends with the guy from Shazam, Levi, whatever his fucking name is. I don't know. They just wanted to do movies. My good friend of the channel, if only, had a link to a video where they're just talking about, God, I wish I could find it. There's no way I'm going to be able to find it. Where these guys, it's a video of Jeremy and these guys just early on talking about boobs and sex and whatnot, and it's just, there's nothing political about it. They just want to make frat boy movies, and I think that was their goal all along. And after they got this billionaire money, you know, they put all these shows out where they're spreading these right-wing talking points, but they're like, let's expand out and do what we really wanted to do. Let's make these movies. You know, they also did the Daily Wire Snow White, but that's not what billionaires want. They don't want, and I'm sure these things all have like very subtle, you know, right-wing propaganda in them. I'm sure they all have subtle right-wing propaganda in them, but that's not what billionaires are paying you for. They're paying you to protect their interests. So they don't want this shit. So they're not going to keep putting money into it. And you're spending all their money, you know, for your own vain purposes of producing this. So let's see. Who here is 12 years old? Sesame Street was back in the days. It's still, Sesame Street's still super important. It's dear to my heart. I'm a diehard Snuffleupagus fan. He's probably the inspiration for everything I do. Original cast record here. Contains the songs. Let's see. I've got two. Going for a Ride. What are kids called? All right. So there's that one. I have to burn through all these records. I have 50 Sesame Street records, and I wanted to share them just to take us back to better times. Play all the songs. I love the is that Gordon there? I can't tell who's Gordon, but he's got a really cool outfit there. His hat, jeans, just awesome. There's that one. Ernie's hits here again. This one's green screen, so rubber ducky. Panther, you seem like Oscar the Grouch. I can see how Oscar the Grouch. You're totally Oscar the Grouch. In your estimation, which Sesame Street character am I? Let's take a poll. What Sesame Street character best represents me? It's not Big Bird. Can't be Big Bird. Big Bird's too dorky, right? He's teaching you about science. Dustin says, if they succeed in changing the culture, they'll need a library, so removal of old think isn't as noticeable. Imagine that's their thinking. The thing is, like, if you know history, which, you know, the right doesn't, but you think back to the burning of the library at Alexandria, where they had just this huge collection of, you know, scientific works of the time, which was, let's see, Alexandria Library burning. So these things have happened in the past, and we don't learn anything. So it was one of the largest and most significant libraries in the ancient world, part of a larger research institution called the Museon, which was dedicated to the Muses. So let's see. So we had this vast repository of all this information they collected, and then essentially what happened was, you know, let's see here. Burning by Julius Caesar. His soldiers set fire to some of the Egyptian ships while trying to clear the wars back. Scholars have interpreted. Let's see. My understanding that essentially, maybe I'm wrong. My understanding was that there was a Christian sect that objected to the works in there, and they were the ones that burned the library down. And there's some historical discrepancies here, because Hypatia, you know, famous scientist, one of the most notable early women who got into science, because a lot of times the opportunities for that were not there, but she had a path forward. So there's a popular notion that she was tied to this library and these things happened at the same time, but I don't believe it did. Yes, the burning of everything. I mean, that's what they always try to do, is like, as soon as we have any sort of social progress, the position of the right is to try to reclaim, I guess the word is it's not, they're not conservatives, and revanchism is I think the correct word for what the people, let's look it up. Revanchism. Revanchism is a policy of seeking to retaliate, especially to recover lost territory. So that's how we have to look at the people today. They're not conservatives, because conservatives are like, conservatism and liberalism kind of tied together, you know, a faith in institutions and a respect for decorum and whatnot. But these people don't have that. They don't respect the institutions. You know, they shouldn't be going after somebody like James Comey. James Comey sucks, but he's a bureaucrat, and he's partly how our society functions, is by having these people who just do their job, and they're not really partisan. They're just doing what they think is in the best interest of their particular department. But the revanchists, they have no respect for any of these things. They feel like they've lost territory, lost power. That famous, what's the quote? What is the quote about when you've experienced privilege your whole life, any attempt at opportunity feels like oppression, is essentially what's going on. Is these people feel, even though it's not, they feel less privileged, and so they push back. Christians burnt down the library in Central America. I did not know that. And Pantha is saying the burning of the Mayan codexes. Yes, all of these things. Pantha says I'm Kermit. I could kind of see Kermit, Mr. Snuffleupagus. I'd like to be, but I think I'm a little. I've got some of the social anxiety that Snuffleupagus has, but I kind of feel like I'm working through that. So maybe Kermit. Kermit was famously the reporter for. What was it? I don't even remember what he was reporting for. So the Count counts. I relate to the Count. Maybe the Count is the guy I probably relate to, because he's got really bad OCD. He's just constantly counting things and flipping light switches off and on. So Count would have been a good character for me to be. Dustin says, what we have now are just fanaticists seeking to return to a past that never existed. Well, I mean, I don't know if it never existed. I mean, there was, like, if you look at post-World War II, white people had it really good during that period, and I think that that's kind of their golden age. They're clearly not trying to return us to, prior to World War II, when the Great Depression. There's a very specific point in history where black people had to use different restrooms and different water fountains and couldn't eat. That's where they want to return us to. They're unaware that Leave It to Beaver was fiction. I kind of like Leave It to Beaver, but I would never. I don't think that anything in Leave It to Beaver represents an ideal society. But probably could dig into that for a really interesting essay on whether there is something idyllic and something to strive for in Leave It to Beaver, even though it was all just white people. Have you seen the short where the one child calls the other a Democrat as a slur? I have not seen this, but share it and we'll watch it. Share it and we'll watch it. In the interim, Big Bird's bedtime stories. There he is, telling a comforting story to Little Bird. Let's see some of the stories worth. Big Bird shares the story of the tortoise and the hare, 3 little pigs, the shoemaker and the elves, 3 billy goats gruff, the town mouse and the country mouse, the ugly duckling, the emperor's new clothes, 3 wishes, and the lion and the mouse. So it's all stories that were going to put you to sleep, Little Bird. They want to party like it's 1959, and that's probably about the decade when, prior to the 60s, prior to the escalation of the Vietnam War, where it reminds me of this. Let's look this up real quick. Jordan Peterson had on Peter Thiel. Again, the billionaires who are trying to. Peter Thiel is smart. He's a dumbass, but he's smarter than Elon Musk because he's been hiding under the radar. He doesn't want people to see how weird he is. But this video here, let's see if I can zoom in on it. Can I zoom in it? The reason why we stopped progressing was hippies took over the country. So the billionaire who basically has accrued vast sums of money, more than anybody else. Again, this was $1 million. Let's see, $1 million. There's a billionaire. So this quote here, where is it? An easy way to understand the difference between $1 million and $1 billion is to remember that 1 million seconds is 11.5 days, but 1 billion seconds is 31.7 years. So that's a good way of illustrating the discrepancy, wealth inequality, and how that's the real, this here is the real problem, that somebody has that much more wealth. But it's interesting that the whole thing is they get in here and they use their money to spread this propaganda, and they get dipshits like Jordan Peterson to sit there and nod their head and take notes and act like Peter Thiel is really dropping facts when he's blaming the hippies for why we're where we're at, and social progress, like the hippies, everything the hippies believed in, that women should be able to vote, should have equal opportunity. That's the real problem. It's not that Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and these people have an inordinate share of their wealth. The Hays Code censored movies. Hardcore moms were addicted to baby laxatives. Dad got drunk 24/7 and beat everyone. Only memory of World War II prevented total fascism. Yeah, it's interesting because it's like we human beings only seem to make progress after tragedy. We can never have social progress until something really bad happens. If you look at after World War II, there was actually a lot of new social programs, the New Deal, and all of these efforts to improve the quality of life of human beings, because we realize that life is difficult, and then how quickly we forget and end up just being shitty to each other. So Big Bird discovers the orchestra. A nice segue here. He's going to teach you about the French horn, oboe, English horn, always a classic, English horn. Welcome back. You've got all of the Cheech and Chong movies. I thought about Cheech the other day and his song Born in East LA. And I was thinking about how right-wing people don't actually understand most media. Like the song Born in the USA is about the guy's struggles. It isn't a proud anthem, but because we are so inundated with propaganda, people think that it's a proud anthem. Whereas I think Cheech's Born in East LA was more of a direct proud anthem about being born in East LA. Panther says that Billy Goat's Gruff is goat. I don't remember Billy Goat's Gruff. Is that the one? Are they eating the I don't. Goats are always eating stuff. I forget what Billy Goat's Gruff is, but you should have come on the stream and you could have shared the story. Sesame Street record. This is just a basic. This is probably one of the first records that they had. Boy, I've got so many records here. I'm just going to have to blaze through here. Again, I got another copy of Sesame Street Fever. I should offer this up. Anybody else who has vinyl who would appreciate a copy of Sesame Street Fever with Grover again. Yeah, but where's Kermit? Kermit would have been, you would think, I guess there's always been a struggle between Kermit and Grover being the kind of, Grover has different issues though. I'm probably Grover. Grover's very socially anxious too. And the monster at the end of the book, I really felt that. So, all right, let's look at, I got 6 records here left, and I didn't share any of my new things. So I'm going to watch this video that David O is sharing. And if anybody else has any, videos or whatnot, since I don't have, I've got really weird lighting on me right now. Maybe I'll make myself smaller so the lighting doesn't seem so terrible. There I am. All right. Gonzo was not technically Sesame Street. Gonzo was the Muppets, right? And Gonzo, he didn't he have like a harem of chickens? Wasn't he like a weird? He's just like a monster, wasn't he? Just an outcast, but he had this harem of chickens. I can't remember. It's so long ago, but Gonzo was funny. Yes, the right-wingers who are into Rage Against the Machine, and also the right-wingers who don't understand Star Trek. You know, they're watching this show about a futuristic space communist society, and they don't get it. The original Star Trek was just all incredibly woke. The cast, the cast of the original Star Trek was, what did they have? They had the white guy, then they had Uhuru was black, and then they had Sulu, who Sulu was Japanese or Asian, and Chekhov, who was Russian. So it was all about DEI. It was all about DEI. Let's see this video. Here we go. Gotta put it over here. Daddy, call me a Democrat. Let's see here. This looks funny. All right.
What? He what? Are you serious? What? He what?
That mini is great.
Are you serious?
That's so funny. I mean, it's not funny when you think about it. When you think that this kid lives in a world of propaganda, it's fucked up, but it's funny, if you just dive on the surface, a bit fucked up that, Democrats are not great, but they're I don't know. I'm confused. That's why I'm going to share. I got to go back to the bigger screen here now. What time is it on Sesame Street? So can somebody name the girl? What's her name? Polly? I don't know her name. The cat's gonna crawl in front of the thing. There is a stark lack of gender diversity on Sesame Street. I'm gonna point that out. All these characters seem to be men. Not enough female characters on Sesame Street. Animal the Drummer was great. Also Muppets. I don't think he was ever on Sesame Street. Who was on Sesame Street, though, were the people in your neighborhood. There's Fireman, Cookie Monster, and Bert. So they weren't even... See, look at this. They weren't even teaching the proper message of all cops are bad. They were pro-police on Sesame Street, and they still got defunded. Boy, I'm really dragging this out with my Sesame Street records. This one is green, Ernie's Hits. Again, I think I already did that one. So I'm trying to get to the final two records, which are going to show. The cat is trying to go into the... He's the one that's opened the blinds that made it so... He's trying to get in the window. And, oh my gosh. What is this behind me here? I'll pull up my... Going to share in a moment here. I'll share my... I got this light on me is terrible. I'm sorry about this. I got bands. I got this in my thing here. All right. Oops, I got to switch. I'm going to switch here again to go back. And we totally got out of the conversation about moralism, and Pantha's here now. She likes to talk about this sort of thing too. So we'll see if we get back on the topic of pro-mortalism and the destruction of the IVF clinic. Sesame Street story time. King's Picnic, The King and the Fireman, The Legend of the Lovely Lady Linda, Story of Ira and Inez, The King's Nose, Ike and the Ilk, The King Banshees, The Letter P. So this just sounds like stuff they made up. But Sesame Street story time. All right. Finally, 3 records left. I'm sorry, everybody, that I'm talking about these Sesame Street records, but it just had to be done. Big Bird leads the band, and he led them to rousing renditions of Old MacDonald Had a Band and Mary Had a Little Lamb March. So probably an unlistenable record. Unlike most of these, the music on most of these are pretty good. All right, so here are the ones that really caused Sesame Street to get defunded. Everybody's record. All right, this is not just your record. This is everybody's record. This is communism. When this is everybody's record, it's a collective record. So probably why, part of the why, but the real reason Sesame Street got defunded was this record here, and it's green screened out. So fair is fair. You know, this is not the sort of thing that the right wants to push. They don't want you to believe in fairness. So, and fairness is a critical concept to us having a decent society. All right, I'm done. I'm sorry about all the Sesame Street records, but I just felt I had to share them. I'm just gonna turn off me here so you don't have to see me. So, in chat here, hey, Mediocrity Network, I noticed that you're not a moderator, and this is the most heavily moderated channel on YouTube. So you get your moderator. So I think everybody looks like everybody's here as moderator. All right. So, and there's A Human. Hello, A Human. It's good to see you. Oh wait, I'm like way behind. Like my chat is stuck here. Liam, you definitely have been mad and called friends, family, Republicans. I do that. I do that. It's a real insult where I am, and it's like Democrats are lame, but it doesn't feel like the same thing. You know, Democrats they're too embroiled in the bureaucracy and the status quo to actually give a shit about the marginalized anymore. But not to the degree that the Republicans are actively trying to make it worse for everybody else. So calling somebody a Republican is an insult, and where I come from, and I do drop it in moments when I'm really, really upset. I will call my significant other a Republican. Most of the YMCA characters, yes. Worse than that, no stranger danger. Let any kids know that their neighbors only see them as rape targets. Yeah, that's a big problem with the media, is that we're way far gone in terms of that. Just the idea that everything out there is scary, and wherever you go, you're going to get raped and cut up and do that. And then basically it demolishes our ability to build community, because your kids aren't going to trust any neighbor. So, and it's the same thing like with trans panic and stuff like that you can't go into the restroom without getting raped. They just basically are doing everything to atomize us so we don't build actual community, because community is the antithesis and the solution to what we're facing now. Let's see here. Woke Mike says he's got some of Stormy Daniels' videos. Okay, thanks for sharing. My cat, A Human, is asking if my cat knows how to annoy me with the sun. And my cat he's pretty smart. If he wants to go outside and I don't take him outside, he will come and he'll like look at something and decide, hey, this is going to really upset him if I start picking this thing up and chewing on it. So he does know how to manipulate me. Dustin says, and teaching us about the filthy, sinful human body. Yes, of course. There's always that sex is something that we can't learn about at all. David O got moderated, and once when we were talking about Woody Allen, I made a comment about the Orgasmatron. Man, I wish I love the early Woody Allen movies. Sleeper is very good. That movie has so many funny quotes in it. But I wish that we could. You don't have a Discord. How can I share a link? You can't just type it in there, and you can if let's see here. I can always share the Discord link if you want to join the Discord. I know it's a pain in the ass for some people to have to learn another application, but you can go to Discord through a browser. You don't have to install anything, but you can feel free to share it here. Any of the social media platforms, if you want to share it with me, I can share it. There we go. All right. Let's watch something from the Mediocrity Network here. All right. This is Actually, this is the Mediocrity Network's channel, so let's all help the Mediocrity Network out. Let's see if I can get it over here. We're gonna watch the sampler. All right, so here we go. Everybody, if you could updo it, he's got 0 on it. He's put effort forth to create. This looks like the work of Joel Haver. Is this done with similar software? Why doesn't this work? See, all right. So I'm subscribed. So we're gonna watch the media, and I hope this is your best work. So, do you want to reconsider this video? Is this a good starting point for your work to be shared among our tiny little community? Here's the question. You just did this video too, 3 hours ago. All right. Oh, this is a sampler of your work. All right, here we go. Is the audio on?
You swear to fuck over every citizen in this country?
Yeah.
Congratulations, you did it. Mr. Kennedy, what's your plan for America?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that news kind of Armageddon is just fiercely, ferociously opposed to my candidacy, and that is in my own, and I'm not. I do think, I mean, I don't know if it...
Muchos clientes pedirme cosas raras.
¿Qué hubo? ¿Eres tú la pinche puta Trump?
Sí, papi, yo brindar servicios. ¿Qué querer de mí?
¿Coger? No quiero nada, cabrona. Eres asquerosa.
Si no querer sexo, entonces ¿qué querer?
A mí me gusta sentir poder. Te quiero ver en 4 patas y ladrar como perra.
Querer que yo ponerme en 4 patas y ladrar como perra?
¿Cuánto quieres, cabrona? 15 pesos.
15 pesos ser excelente. Por supuesto que yo ser esto. Cachetearme mis nalgas. Rough, 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 rough. Esta es ser mi vida ahora. La vida de puta Trump.
Previously on Bible.
Sir, you mind handing me a drink over there? I want to show you something.
Sure, man. Here you go, man.
Yeah, give it to me. It's water, right? Check this out.
Oh shit, dude, that's fucking crazy, bro. What the fuck?
Yo, man, that shit was crazy, man. He took my water and turned that shit into wine. I don't know how the fuck he did that. He's the Messiah or some shit.
No matter how much I run, I can't escape Jordan Peterson. I can't escape his meat.
Jordan Peterson, Jordan Peterson, Jordan Peterson, eat that meat, eat that meat. Jordan Peterson, eat that meat, eat that meat. Jordan Peterson, eat that meat, eat that meat. Jordan Peterson, eat that meat. You're a man, eat that meat. Jordan Peterson, eat that meat, eat that meat, daddy, eat that meat. Eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it, daddy, eat it, eat it, eat. Jordan Peterson, eat that meat, eat that meat, eat that meat. Jordan Peterson, eat that meat, eat it, papi, eat it, daddy, eat it, papa, eat it, eat that meat, eat that meat. Jordan Peterson, eat that meat. Jordan Peterson, eat that meat.
That was very international.
Hey there,
I like I like you've got the range of characters there. Very, very flavorful. So thank you for sharing. It looked like inspired. Like I know Pantha is a fan of home movies and the original Squiggle Vision. So it evoked Dr. Katz too. Dr. Katz, professional therapist. Got some Squiggle Vision going on.
On the news, sometimes,
All right. I'll share what I was working on. I changed the tone of this video. Let's see. Originally, I was working on, let's see, Fox and Friends. Let me save this one first. I think I changed my idea. I was going to just continue this storyline. I haven't done any lip syncing here, and I haven't done any of the visuals, but I'll just share this.
All right, the White House is denying rumors that Elon Musk plans to commit suicide on Fox News this upcoming Monday. Sources close to Elon say that he would prefer to do it later in the week.
Okay, so what is really going on with the world's richest guy, and when will we get to watch him finally kill himself here on Fox News? Channeling Painter is here with the details. Channeling.
Good morning. So the White House and Elon Musk both agree that Monday would be a terrible day for him to kill himself here on Fox News. Elon has been explicit about not taking his own life until he gets to say his in-person goodbyes to those closest to him. While it's a very short list of people that obviously doesn't include any of his children, it does include his closest friend who was recently hospitalized for a bowel impaction. And so the two of them won't be able to share final goodbyes until the middle of the week.
Elon and Cat Turd 2 are incredibly good friends. They might even be each other's only friends. Maybe only friends would have been a better name for Twitter. You know, because Elon has no friends in real life, and it's incredibly sad. It's no wonder why he's constantly thinking about killing himself. He should do it sooner than later, but Monday is just too early.
Since Elon first announced his televised suicide, rumors have been swirling about when and on what show he planned to do it on.
So I was working on this, and I feel like I'm reiterating some of the same jokes, and I'm not sure. I really like this bit here where I did introduce Cat Turd. So Cat Turd, I don't know if for people who are not Twitter brain, Cat Turd is a right-wing dork. And I guess recently he's been hospitalized twice for having impacted bowels. And I like the idea of Elon and him being only friends. And I had this bit, this is probably the best part of it. And I was wondering whether I just need to rewrite all of this, but this part I think is really good here. The Trump sounds really good, and the lip sync is pretty good here.
Elon and Cat Turd 2 are incredibly good friends. They might even be each other's only friends. Maybe only friends would have been a better name for Twitter, you know, because Elon has no friends in real life, and it's incredibly sad. It's no wonder why he's constantly thinking about killing himself.
The intonation here on only friends is funny. I just had him say OnlyFriends, and that reminded me of OnlyFans, and I thought Trump should say that he should rename the site to OnlyFans.
Cat Turd 2 are incredibly good friends.
OnlyFriends, sorry.
They might even be each other's only friends. Maybe OnlyFriends would have been a better name for Twitter.
So then I did this a couple days ago. I'm trying to finish. I told that I need to wrap up my Elon Ends It series, trying to do 10 episodes, which would give me close to 20 minutes when I tether them together. Put them all together with commercials in between, and you can watch this entire thing in which it's all just jokes about Elon killing himself. I'm not sure how well that's going to play out, but I started to think that maybe I wanted to tie it to current events and maybe do more speculative fiction. That Elon is sad for different reasons, so I started it again with this.
The FBI has confirmed that several gallons of Elon Musk's sperm have been destroyed in the bombing of an IVF clinic in Palm Springs, California.
So I started it with that, and I thought, that's kind of funny, I think. I like the idea that Elon Musk is really feeling this particular disaster in a certain way. And I like the idea of talking about several gallons of his sperm
have been destroyed. Several gallons of Elon Musk's sperm have been destroyed in the bombing of an IVF clinic in Palm Springs, California.
So I was wondering if I could maybe tie that into the suicide storyline, that maybe this is making him spiral even more, that he lost. I was wondering whether I should just whether it's funnier to say gallons of his sperm or jugs of his sperm, and then talk about how long it's going to take him to replace that. Yes, I was hoping that other people felt that several gallons. Several jugs also sounded funny, you know, just that they're in like little jugs. And I was also wondering whether it should be barrels or whatnot, that he's got this supply of his spunk. I had a tweet about it too. I tweeted out that, where was it, right here? Elon Musk takes this sort of political violence very seriously. IVF is currently the only way his species can interbreed with humans. I got one like for that from my good friend Spooky Girl Cassie. So yeah, I was thinking big balls too. I was wondering whether I tie Doge to this whole storyline. Maybe he convinces his entire department to exit the world with him. So yeah. So there's that, I think. And then there was also, I posted earlier about Trump's upcoming birthday. So I'm not sure I could find funny jokes for it. Let's see here. So here was this one. The original video, they're wishing President Carter happy birthday. I don't think I did the lip sync on this one yet either. So the idea was I wanted to make a video birthday card for Trump and have them say some funny things. And this is not great what I have so far, but here it is.
On behalf of the entire Biden family, we're all hoping that you have an adequate birthday.
Happy birthday. Have yourself an okay evening.
To the big birthday boy, I sure hope this is your last.
Happy birthday, friend. We've had some good times together.
So the idea for this video was I would have kind of weird, to start it kind of not that obvious that it's, the trick would be to make it so, because most people don't want to watch the shit. If they see Joe Biden talking, they're like, I don't want to watch him. So to make him say something that's kind of funny, but kind of not true, like he says,
We're all hoping that you have an adequate birthday.
That you have an adequate birthday. And so then I thought, well, Obama.
Happy birthday. Have yourself an okay evening.
Have an okay evening. And George Bush. So the concept for this was I was going to try to make it so that they said kind of funny things, insinuating that they were forced to say happy birthday to Trump, and they did it in kind of like a anodyne way. And then Clinton talks about how they had some really good times together.
Happy birthday, friend. We've had some good times together.
So my vision was to cut these mundane clips together with Clinton talking about what a good time he used to have with Trump, and then have it be revealed that he's talking about Epstein Island. I don't know if this one's funny or not, or if it's worth doing, but I think that a Trump birthday would be funny, maybe in the hands of a more competent comedy writer. Dustin says there's probably a chance you're down modded on X for some reason. Yeah, because although I do get some play on X, let's look here. Where's my X profile? I do constantly say bad things about Elon, which probably I've been downvoted for. But I mean, this video here, I got almost 250,000 views and 2,000 likes, and this was only a month ago. Let's see here. You know, this Tim Pool one that I did, I'll play this one again for people who hadn't seen it. Let me play it over. I'll play the real video because I think the video is kind of fun. Here it is.
Again, we're here. Very quick, very effective.
So
again, we're here.
That video got 80. I mean, my account's small on Twitter. I've only got 1,000 people. Let's see. Tim Pool again. I did get something recently that had more views. So it's hard because like sometimes I'm like, that should have done way better than it did, and then other times it just flops. You know, and sometimes I get something that does really well. Let's see. Actually, let's look at my media. If I click my media, where's this media? We can look and see. Let's go back. There was something here that I don't know. I don't really pay that much attention. I just pop in here and try to shit post and then get out. I don't really even bother to go through and actively engage with people. So that's part of the problem is I think you really have to go through and tell people you like them. And it's just like on this platform, I'm not sure it's worth it. Let's see. There was a Tim Pool video that I put up. Let's see how that one did. Anyways, I think I had like nearly 1 million on it on Tim Pool, but yeah, I haven't recently been able to do much here. So happy birthday, my fellow islander. Yeah, I'd like to try to, I just like, sometimes I just wonder about my ability to do things in a sophisticated way rather than being ham-fisted, like just to kind of drag it up to that point, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it. I'm still, like, I shared some other things that I still haven't finished, like the Elon Musk's Simpsons episode I haven't done yet either. So anyways, I think that I've shared pretty much everything that I'm working on right now. Let's look in my thing open. Happy birthday, Fox and Friends. Temple Throw. I haven't posted this yet, the one I made last week, but I think everybody here has already seen it. This is crack. So I'm not going to share that one again. Maybe this week I can get have a little bit more stuff done to share. And yeah. The conversation about the IVF thing. I guess it's it ended. I think I ended it. I got it out of my brain by talking about Sesame Street. Yeah, I don't pay Elon either. And I feel bad for people who do have to, because there are people who spent years cultivating, their little online brand there and building a little profile and being able to engage with their community. And then Elon Musk basically said, now you have to pay for it. He chased a bunch of people off. So it's like, it's unfortunate. There are people that I consider to be, talented at posting memes and talented at making funny jokes. And they built their profile up and now they have to pay Elon. It's just sad because Elon basically bought the whole system so he could win the game. It's Twitter is the biggest pay to win video game thing in history, essentially. You're welcome, Mediocrity Network, and if you have more stuff to share in the future, happy to share it whenever we have an opportunity. And thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for showing up and hanging out with me, and sorry for all the Sesame Street stuff and the talk of moral anti-realism. I know that everybody doesn't really want to talk about that all the time, but we're still going to do it. So I'm going to leave this stream with that, and I will definitely be back same time next week, but hopefully I'll be more prepared and won't just have to ramble off my Sesame Street records with you guys. So thank you all for showing up, and I'll see you next time.